All right, welcome to The Explainer. We've got a truly wild ride ahead of us today because we are tracking the unbelievable rise of Isis. We're going to look at exactly how she transformed from a highly localized mythological figure in ancient Egypt into an absolute global powerhouse of a deity. Let's get right into it. I mean, seriously, think about this for a second. How does a mourning widow from the Nile Delta end up becoming the supreme all-goddess of the entire Roman Empire? Talk about an incredible career trajectory, right? We're going to trace this brilliant evolution step by step and see exactly how she adapted, absorbed new powers, and ultimately just conquered the ancient Mediterranean world. So, part 1, Origins of the Mourning Widow. Let's go back to her roots. To really understand Isis, we have to rewind to the Egyptian Old Kingdom, thousands of years before the Common Era. Back then, she definitely wasn't a universal ruler. Her identity was entirely wrapped up in ancient Egypt's most famous narrative, the Osiris myth. The story kicks off with a massive tragedy. The god Set kills and actually dismembers his brother Osiris. So Isis, the devoted wife and sister, along with Nephthys, goes out, finds the scattered pieces, and puts his body back together. But she doesn't stop there. Using incredibly powerful magic, she temporarily resurrects him just long enough to conceive their son, Horus. So in the beginning, her main gig was being this fiercely devoted, grieving sister and wife, and a protector of the dead. And you can actually see this evolution reflected in her physical depictions over time. Take a look at the Old Kingdom style on the left. She's portrayed as a human woman wearing a really simple throne-like hieroglyph on her head. Actually, her Egyptian name, Aset, was literally written with that exact throne sign. But then, look at the New Kingdom iconography on the right. She completely levels up. She starts absorbing the traits of older heavyweight gods, specifically Hathor, who was the preeminent goddess of earlier times. Suddenly, Isis is rocking Hathor's iconic headdress, the sun disk resting right between the cow horns. It's a massive visual shift that perfectly tracks her exploding religious and political importance. Moving on to part 2, Mother, Magician, and Protector. This is where her resume really starts to expand. See, Isis wasn't just some distant, unapproachable cosmic force. As the mother of Horus, she was intensely compassionate. The myths talk about her actively hiding her vulnerable infant in the papyrus thickets of the Nile Delta, fiercely protecting him from snakes and scorpions. There's even a story where she heals a regular human child who got stung by a scorpion. And that is exactly why she became so popular. She actively healed human suffering. Everyday people could relate to her. They invoked her in their own healing spells. Plus, on a political level, because she was the mother of Horus and the living pharaoh was considered the earthly embodiment of Horus, she literally bestowed the divine right to rule. But she wasn't just compassionate. She was ruthless and brilliantly cunning. Ancient texts actually call her more clever than 1,000,000 gods. And to back that up, there's this mind-blowing myth where she basically pulls off a divine heist. She creates a venomous snake specifically to bite the great sun god, Ra. As Ra is dying and totally desperate, Isis swoops in and offers to cure him. But there's a catch. She'll only do it if he reveals his true secret name. In Egyptian magic, knowing someone's secret name gives you ultimate power over them. Ra holds out, but finally breaks. He gives her the name, she cures him, and boom, she snatches his supreme power to bolster her own son's authority. She literally outsmarted the sun god. Which brings us to part 3, conquering the Greco-Roman world, because this is where her story goes totally global. Her geographical expansion was, frankly, explosive. After Alexander the Great's conquests and the Ptolemaic rule in Egypt, all these different cultures became deeply intertwined. By the late 4th century BCE, merchants and sailors were already carrying her cult to Greek port cities. Fast forward to the 2nd century BCE, and private shrines to Isis are popping up right in Rome. Now, early Roman authorities are actually super suspicious of her independent cult. They even tried to tear her shrines down, but she was absolutely unstoppable. By the late 1st century CE, the Flavian emperors fully embraced her, and during the 2nd and 3rd centuries, her temples peaked all across the Western Empire. We're talking everywhere from the deserts of Syria all the way to the rainy, foggy outpost of Londinium in Britain. And as her geography expanded, so did her powers. She essentially absorbed the domains of massive Greek and Roman deities like Demeter and Aphrodite, building this insane global portfolio. Suddenly, she's credited as the inventor of marriage, the inventor of agriculture. She becomes Isis Pelagia, the protector of ships at sea, which, by the way, was absolutely crucial for Rome's grain supply. She wasn't just governing nature anymore. Her followers believed she controlled fate and time itself. She was the overseer of the entire cosmos. And this sparks a really profound theological shift called sumonism. Basically, people in the Greco-Roman world started looking around at all the different goddesses, Demeter, Aphrodite, Artemis, Fortuna, and started conceptualizing them as just localized names for one single supreme deity, Isis. The ancient Roman writer Apollonius actually had her declare that while she was worshipped by the whole world under dozens of different forms, her true singular name was Isis. All right, part 4, secret cults and mystery rites. Let's look at how people actually worshipped her. Because as she evolved, the lived experience of her followers changed completely. Traditional Egyptian temple rites were incredibly rigid and exclusive. You had priests offering daily food and clothing to statues hidden deep in secluded sanctuaries. The general public never even saw them. But in the Greco-Roman world, her worship transformed into something intensely vibrant. We're talking massive, raucous public festivals, deeply emotional personal devotion, and these highly dramatic, secret mystery initiations that promised everyday followers a beautiful, blessed afterlife. And thanks to that same Roman author, Apuleius, we actually have a rare, cryptic look into what those initiation rites were like. And wow, they were intense. It was a total sensory overload experience. Initiates would enter the inner temple in the dead of night. They'd go on this symbolic journey to the literal threshold of death, probably mimicking Osiris dying and Ra traveling through the underworld. Then, right at the stroke of midnight, there would be this sudden, blindingly bright light flashing in the dark, a symbolic rebirth, and it all culminated in a face-to-face encounter with the divine. It was heavily psychological, designed to permanently, profoundly bond the worshiper to Isis. Finally, part 5, an everlasting cultural legacy. So even when Christianity rose to dominance and actively began closing down her temples between the 4th and 6th centuries, her memory refused to fade. It absolutely survived. In early Christianity, art historians point out some very strong visual echoes between ancient statues of Isis nursing baby Horus and the later iconic imagery of the Madonna and Child. They share this incredibly powerful visual language of maternal divinity. Later, during the Renaissance, European thinkers looked back and celebrated her as a civilizing queen and the ultimate personification of nature. By the 18th century, her ancient mystery rites were actually inspiring Masonic secret societies and even sparked the creative genius behind Mozart's famous opera, The Magic Flute. And jumping all the way to the 20th century, during the Egyptian Pharaonism revival, Isis was reclaimed as a deeply unifying symbol for Egyptian national independence. Which brings us to this incredible quote. It's one of the most famous inscriptions ever associated with her, recorded by ancient philosophers referencing a veiled statue of the goddess. It reads, "I am all that has been and is and will be, and no mortal has ever lifted my mantle." I mean, chills, right? It perfectly cements her ultimate status. She started as a grieving sister in a hyperlocal myth, and she evolved into the enigmatic, universal personification of all nature, truth, and cosmic mystery. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Think about the concept of an all-encompassing, fiercely compassionate, feminine divine. Where does that idea live on right now? What modern symbols or stories or ideas might still be carrying the legacy of Isis today? It is a truly fascinating question to ponder as you look at the art, religion, and pop culture all around us. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible evolution with me, and keep questioning the history behind the ideas we just take for granted.